In a quiet valley surrounded by gentle hills and silver, green olive trees, lived a humble donkey named Rafiq, a creature so ordinary that people rarely glanced at him twice, except to mutter about how slow he was or how cluelessly he wandered through the village. But inside Rafiq's soft brown eyes lived a heart far bigger than anyone ever noticed. Every morning, he watched the world wake up, shopkeepers lifting their shutters, children chasing each other barefoot through the dusty lanes, and farmers returning from the fields with tired smiles. Rafiq belonged to an elderly man named Musa, a poor but kind-hearted farmer whose life had been marked by both struggle and gratitude. Musa believed every creature had a purpose, even if the world failed to see it, so he treated Rafiq not as a tool, but as a friend. One fateful afternoon, just as the sun washed the valley in golden light, a terrible storm rolled over the hills. Winds roared like angry spirits, rain slashed the earth, and the peaceful village dissolved into panic. People rushed indoors, animals fled to shelter, but Musa, returning from the marketplace, slipped on the soaked mountain path and fell into a steep ravine hidden beneath bushes and stones. His cry was swallowed by thunder. Hours passed. No one knew he was missing, except Rafiq. The donkey paced near the gate of their small home, ears twitching, heart pounding with an unexplained anxiety. Something inside him, a raw, instinctive pull stronger than fear, urged him toward the hills. Without waiting for anyone, Rafiq charged into the storm. His hooves slipped, branches whipped against his skin, but he kept going, driven only by the memory of the man who had always shown him kindness. The wind shrieked, lightning split the sky, yet Rafiq pushed forward, following a scent only loyalty could detect. At last he reached the ravine, where Musa lay unconscious, bleeding and half buried under rocks. Rafiq brayed loudly, desperately, again and again, the sound echoing over the valley like a call for help. But no one heard him, so Rafiq climbed down the dangerous slope himself, inch by careful inch, until he reached Musa's broken body. He nudged him, pulled at his clothing with his teeth, pushed his body with all the strength his small frame had, but Musa did not wake. Rafiq refused to give up. He slid his body underneath Musa like a living support, using his back to lift the man upward toward safety. The rocks cut into his skin. His legs trembled beneath the weight, but still he climbed. Rain soaked him, mud swallowed his hooves, yet not once did he stop. By the time he reached the top of the ravine, dawn was breaking over the hills, painting the valley with soft pink light. Villagers finally spotted the donkey struggling toward the village with Musa draped across his back. They rushed forward in disbelief, calling for help, bringing blankets, water, and ropes. Musa was carried to the healer's hut, and hours later, he opened his weary eyes. The first thing he saw was Rafiq lying nearby, breathing heavily, wounded but alive. Tears rolled down the old man's cheeks as he whispered, "You saved my life, my friend." Word of the donkey's bravery spread across the valley, and for the first time in his life, Rafiq was not ignored, he was celebrated. Children hugged him, villagers fed him fruits and warm bread, and even the proudest men bowed their heads with respect when he passed. Yet Rafiq did not care for applause. He only cared that Musa lived. That day, a truth echoed through the valley. Sometimes the smallest heart carries the greatest courage. And sometimes hope appears in the form of a creature the world calls ordinary, but destiny calls extraordinary. The storm had passed, but its memory lingered in the hearts of the villagers, especially in the home where Musa rested quietly on a woven bed, his arm wrapped in bandages and his ribs tender from the fall. By his side, Rafiq lay curled up like a guardian statue, refusing to leave even for food or water. Every time Musa opened his eyes, he found those gentle brown eyes watching over him, filled with a silent promise, "I am here." News of the donkey's bravery spread far beyond the valley, traveling from village to village by traders, shepherds, and wandering storytellers. Soon people from distant towns came just to see Musa and the donkey who had risked everything to save him. Some came with disbelief, others with curiosity, and a few with tears, stirred by the reminder that kindness still existed in a world rushing too fast to notice its own miracles. But fame meant nothing to Rafiq. While people bowed, praised, or tried to pet him, he stayed close to Musa, nudging him gently whenever he winced, and lowering his head into Musa's lap whenever the elderly farmer looked weary. Days passed, and Musa slowly regained his strength. Yet something inside him transformed a realization that he had been saved not merely by accident or instinct, but by love. He often stared at Rafiq, wondering how many times he had overlooked the quiet loyalty of the companion who walked with him every day, carrying loads without complaint, waiting patiently for a pat or a kind word. Now, the donkey's heartbeat felt louder in Musa's life than ever before, reminding him that gratitude should not come after tragedy, but before it. One evening, a wealthy merchant from a faraway city visited the valley with a glittering offer, a large sum of money to buy Rafiq. A donkey like him, the merchant said, could be trained, displayed, even taken to royal courts. A creature of courage is rare. I will pay you more than you have earned in 10 years. The villagers murmured in awe. It was a fortune, enough to build a new home, buy land, live comfortably. Musa hesitated. Poverty had followed him like a shadow his entire life, whispering doubts, reminding him of empty winters and foodless nights. The money would erase many hardships. But then he looked at Rafiq, who stood close beside him, not knowing the conversation, simply trusting that Musa would protect him as fiercely as he had protected Musa. In that moment, Musa realized that some things cannot be sold: loyalty, love, and the life that saved your own. He placed a gentle hand on Rafiq's neck and shook his head. He is not for sale. Musa said quietly but firmly. He is family. The merchant scoffed, calling him foolish, but left with respect for the man who valued a heart over gold. When he was gone, Musa knelt beside Rafiq and whispered, "You saved me. Now it is my turn to stand by you." Life slowly returned to normal, though now it felt brighter, warmer, touched by the glow of a second chance. Children visited daily to bring Rafiq fruits, rubbing his ears until he brayed softly with joy. Villagers built a small shelter for him with fresh wood and a thatched roof, decorated with colorful cloth strips that fluttered in the wind like tiny flags of celebration. And Musa, once a tired farmer, now walked with renewed energy, as if the storm had washed away not just danger but the dust on his spirit. Openly grateful, he began teaching the valley something powerful, that hope often comes from unexpected places, and kindness is a force stronger than fear. One morning, during the village festival of lights, a young boy named Zain wandered too close to the riverbank. The celebrations drowned out his cries as he slipped on wet stones and fell into the rushing stream. Panic spread when someone finally noticed. The villagers rushed toward the river, but the current was too fast and the boy too far. Without waiting for anyone's command, Rafiq bolted toward the water. Musa shouted after him, fear tightening his chest. But Rafiq did not stop. He leapt into the river, fighting the current with every ounce of strength in his small, sturdy body. The waters crashed around him, pushing him deeper, swirling him away from the shore. But Rafiq swam with fierce determination, reaching the boy just as he was sinking below the surface. Zain clung to Rafiq's back, trembling, coughing, terrified. Slowly, against the river's fury, Rafiq paddled his way back toward the bank. Villagers pulled them out, cheering and crying at once for the second time. The valley had witnessed a miracle born from the heart of a donkey they once considered ordinary. The village elder raised his voice to the crowd, saying, "He saved Musa. Now he saved a child. This donkey is not just an animal, he is a reminder from the heavens that kindness is never small, courage is never wasted, and love is never forgotten." From that day forward, Rafiq became a symbol of hope. The valley painted murals of him, children sang songs about him, and elders told his story during winter nights by firelight. Musa often smiled quietly as he listened, placing a hand on Rafiq's head as the donkey rested beside him peacefully. And whenever visitors came asking how such a humble creature performed such heroic deeds, Musa replied with a simple truth: because he was treated with kindness. And kindness always comes back, sometimes in the moment you need it most. As the sun set behind the hills, casting golden light over the valley, Rafiq stood on a small rise beside Musa, watching the village that loved him. The wind carried laughter, the river shimmered softly, and lanterns swayed gently in the twilight. It was a picture of peace, a peace earned through love, courage, and selfless devotion. And to everyone watching the animated story that captured their hearts, the narrator's voice gently reminded them, if this story touched you, if it made you believe in goodness again, then subscribe to our channel. Because every week, we bring you stories of hope, courage, and kindness, stories just like Rafiq's, stories that remind us that the smallest act can change a life forever.